You know, I'm a big fan of movies. You know, I watch on my laptop if it's working, or on my phone, because, you know, as you all know, I don't have a TV in my house. If anybody wants to donate a TV.
Particularly a 52-inch one.
Yeah, you know, that would be fantastic. But, you know, this morning we are joined in the studio by Solomon Maramba, who is going to take us through everything film, what's happening in our local scene with film in Zimbabwe, which I think is actually a growing industry. Solomon, good morning. And welcome to Morning Rush.
Thank you, Marisa.
It's very good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so one of the questions I was thinking, you know, you think local films and it's like, standard, the quality of the stuff we produce. Tell us more about the current state of the film industry in Zimbabwe.
Okay, film production definitely has quite a way to go still to go back to where it was, but there's a lot of really interesting stuff happening at the moment. There are guys who are producing really high production quality products. There are some guys doing some amazing stuff with animation, working with Disney and so on. So there is stuff happening in the background. It's a little bit of stuff, but I think there's a groundswell happening. Yeah. People are seeing it, and these guys are open to collaborations and starting to work with other guys. So it's opening the door for more people to produce the same kind of.
I mean, you've got guys like a good mate of mine, Joe Njaju. He's one of the top directors here. I mean, he's had a movie on Netflix. He's also obviously produced. He's won awards all around.
Yes.
I mean, it's that kind of pioneers, and of course, I won't even talk about my own brother because I'll have to throw him in. Mark Tonderai, of course, who's in Hollywood.
Oh yes.
So there are Zimbabweans who are leading the way, but it appears as if one of the major problems is money, I suppose, financing of movies. How are we getting around that problem? Because there's a lot of guys wanting to do movies who want to come and get the cash.
I think, you know, one of the things that we probably have to do is just work with what we have available to produce as good a quality product as we can, and then try and push that out. I'm going to pivot a little bit because, you know, people watch movies, that's true, but if you look at the amount of time people spend on Instagram now, on TikTok, it's much more than they do watching movies or Netflix or whatever. So there is potentially a space there for people who have smartphones to figure out how to engage with people and create short content. I mean, like guys like Bus Stop TV have been creating really short, really interesting content that has built a following. So I think there are a few different models that could be looked at in terms of what it is a filmmaker can do and what film is becoming, I suppose.
So in other words, you don't have to do this 2-hour movie. You can do little bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And we can even make a movie here, I suppose.
But you see, I feel like that takes away from the film itself. I mean, I love to sit and watch a film for an hour and a half or 2 hours because there's a story behind it all, and following that. Isn't this something that is something you would potentially push more? And how would you do that?
It is, but as Andy was talking about, the budgets are not available at the moment. So it might be a really good idea for people to look at creating short format stuff that shows potential and ability, as well as maybe try and build up a following, and then move to longer and longer format things. I know a lot of people focus on television production because there's definitely a market for it, and it's, you know, it's serialized.
And TV seems to be where people are moving now. I mean, even all the big stars now are doing TV series.
Yeah.
Tell us about Ziff, though. I mean, Ziff obviously has been on the forefront of really moving and promoting movies in Zimbabwe for many, many years. How is it working out? How is Ziff going? And how's my old mate Nigel Munyati? I'm sure he's still around, isn't he? And Nakai, she's still around.
Yes, she is. Yeah, it's going. It's interesting. I'll say it's interesting. Last year's festival was us coming out of COVID. Well, it was the second year after COVID, and I think it did really well. We had a lot of support from people around in the community. So there's a good ecosystem there, and I think the festival is it's definitely going to grow, and we've just had our strategy session last year. So the festival has pivoted to being a Pan-African film festival.
Oh, wow.
So I think that's the big thing I wanted to
that would
share.
be brilliant.
About that.
Okay, talk us about that. Tell us about that.
So there is this, I'm going to use this word again, groundswell of African content that is being produced of very high quality.
Yeah.
I think if you look on Netflix, you'll see there's
lot of
more and more really
productions.
beautiful
It's
stuff
really
coming
good,
out.
yeah.
So that speaks to the quality of the production, but it also speaks to the type of stories that are being told, which are not stories that are generally seen on the international market. So, and there are a lot of those that have not yet been told, and people are writing. I mean, I know of people who have written series after series after series, but they don't have people to produce yet. So there's a lot of content that's ready to come out. Once the production is in place, the money is in place, it'll all happen. So ZIF sees ourselves as a space to showcase some of that. And there's so much of it that if we just focused on that, there'll be so much content to share. And we're also involved in the development and participating in the development of film.
But you talk Pan-African. How does that link into it now? Because to me, when people hear Pan-African, they mean, for me, it means like more than one country.
Yeah,
yes, absolutely.
So how is that?
When I talk Pan-African, it's more than just Zimbabwe or Zambia. There are a myriad of production companies on the continent that are producing really great content. So working with the different countries, producers, festivals would be a way for us to build a really strong content block, which can then be sold beyond the continent. If you look at the continent itself, there are enough people to consume the content anyway. So it would be a way for us to have a block of content that Africans can consume and would consume, because I think African people are hungry for African content.
Yeah.
And if you're in Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, or even in West Africa, you are likely to be watching Nigerian films. Because they've pushed it out.
They've pushed that a lot.
Yeah. And South African films are also very well taken. The language.
How do we get out of this? I don't know. There's this Netflix. We talk about Netflix Hollywood. How do we get out of it to create our own sort of African Netflix? Because as you said, we have 1 point whatever billion people. Right? It's not like we don't have the people to watch, but we're still having to talk about Netflix and Hollywood and da 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 da. I mean, how do we get out of that? Because that seems to be the one way that film can grow.
It's I think it's creating different platforms for that to happen. Nico Abote is working on Play Africa TV. So that's one that's similar to Netflix. It's a subscription service, and they have African content on there. So if you subscribe to that, you'll get it. And then there's work being done by the AU, the Department of Culture, towards improving cinema availability for people throughout the country. And I think there's some people working on getting some cinemas into rural areas and so on. So there should be like some kind of network of cinemas that this content can
go out there, because the drive, for me, it's the drive to, like you just mentioned Nico Abote's, but I don't even know about that.
Okay.
How do we get to know about this?
Okay, I guess that comes down to marketing and more people sharing the information. Okay. And then there is an aspect of data cost, which can limit a lot of people. And that's I think where the guys who are looking at setting up cinemas around the country and around the continent are looking at dealing with that issue, where they would take on the cost of streaming or whatever, and then people can come in and pay $1 or whatever and
just to watch that.
So the future, I mean, I suppose that's our question, isn't it?
Where are we going with this? And Zim's potential with the film. I hear you saying that there's lots of little things. But what's the potential in Zimbabwe with film?
Well, I think it's been done before. There are films that have been produced in Zimbabwe, international films that have been produced here. And we've got an amazing, amazing scenery. We've got great weather. If you compare it to other countries, you're not going to be on a shoot and then suddenly it's raining. If rain is not 2 days. Well, we're in that season, but there's a significant period of time where you can film and be certain of what the weather will be like. And I think that's very valuable for someone in production. The scenery, a lot of the tourist destinations, the wildlife.
Yeah.
There's so much beautiful stuff to film, and there's a great potential for Zimbabwe to be a preferred destination for
I agree, but at the
locations.
same time, we need to put things like film tax breaks in. I know there's discussions with the city of Farayi trying to put some land together to build a film park. I think Albert Nyati's involved in that. So there are things that we can do behind the back to make it easier, right?
Yes, absolutely. And part of that is also trying to forge relationships, I suppose, with people who are in the tourism sector who potentially could derive value from this working. So the idea would be to try and engage everyone to try and create an ecosystem and market that ecosystem to people outside. So part of what ZIF is doing is this year's festival, we're inviting filmmakers and festival directors and so on from around the continent to come in. And
well, very quickly, because we're running out of time, but when is the film festival this year?
The festival is from the 15th to the 23rd of September.
Wow. It sounds far, but it isn't far, guys.
Yeah, it's just around the corner.
Very soon, yeah. So
Solomon, Maramba, thank you so much for joining us.
What a pleasure having you, mate. Please pass all our regards to everyone in ZIF and the film industry, right?
Yes.
Let everybody in the film industry know we support them. Thank you.
Well,